We are live, Prabhu. Okay.
Let me know when I'm supposed to start, Prabhu.
Yes. Okay, we are live. Thank you, Prabhu. Welcome you all for our Iskcon Naperville Sunday feast.
Okay. Let me know when I'm supposed to start.
Yes. Okay, we are live. Thank you. Today we have a special guest to take our Sunday feast. His Grace Balarama Prabhu. The topic today is the original Guru. Balarama Prabhu is a community leader, working a professional and a facilitator of various study groups that help aspiring spiritualists to systematically study Srila Prabhupada and deepen their roots in Krishna consciousness. He is a Vedic scholar and has been practicing Krishna consciousness for more than a decade. He is very close to our heart in Naperville. He occasionally comes here, but we planning to bring him more often. But today we're going to take his association by hearing what is that Guru about. Thank you, Prabhu. Please go ahead and you can start presentation if you have any.
Sure, let me just figure this out. How do I do my screen share? Okay, let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see. Yes, full screen.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Hare Krishna, it is indeed a pleasure and honor to be here speaking on the glories of Sri Balaram. So before we begin, we'll do Mangalacharan, and then we will spend some time discussing on the topic, today's topic, how Lord Balaram is our original spiritual master. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So it is indeed an honor again. My gratitude to the devotees in Iskcon Naperville for kindly allowing me to come and speak this evening, the day before Balaram Purnima, which happens to be tomorrow. Pandurang Gopalpu, you're able to see the screen, right?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, all right. So, I mean, these are just few slides that I put together so that we can keep our thought process aligned to the discussion. So, there are various perspectives that can be shared. When the Lord appears, Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, one of the reasons he appears is to dharma sanstapana, right, to establish religious principles, which is he himself provides that to the medium of the Vedas, to the medium of the Puranas, Upanishads, especially for Gaudiya Vaishnavas through Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, this principle of understanding what is true religion, as Bhagavatam says, Dharmam tu Shakshat Bhagavat Pranitam. That Bhagwan himself is giving us the principles of religion, how to live and how to act in this world in a way that doesn't entangle us. Now, this is a very important principle because everything that we do here in this world, it either liberates us or it either entangles us, right? So an intelligent, sane person is always looking for opportunities by which he can liberate himself from the shackles of birth, old age, death, and disease. Now, in order for us to do that, certainly knowledge is required, and just not knowledge itself, but along with the knowledge, the application of the knowledge is of utmost importance, right? And this is what differentiates a disciple who has taken shelter within a sampradaya versus somebody who's out there, doing PhD study on a particular Vedic text, right? The unique thing about sampradaya is that this sampradaya offers us not only the knowledge, but also it offers us how to apply that knowledge, practically without getting too much into the details, right? Because if you understand the principle, the application of that principle could vary from person to person, from individual to individual, right? That's why it is called a principle, because we don't get stuck in the details, right? The knowledge or the teachings can be applied based on place, time, and circumstances. So for us, this specific topic that we have chosen today, it is very significant because this personality whom we'll be talking about today, this personality is the one who holds, or who is the person who is in charge of this knowledge, right? So it is mentioned in the scriptures, especially in our Gaudiya Vaishnava scriptures, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains who is Sri Balaram. And Prabhupada very beautifully summarizes who is Sri Balaram, right? There is no difference between Krishna and Balaram. The only difference is the color, right? The color of Krishna is the dark monsoon cloud color, or you can say black, and Sri Balaram's color is like the white, the spring cloud. So that is the only difference. There is absolutely no difference between Krishna and Balaram, right? But yet, from the perspective of rasa, from tattva perspective, there is no difference. But when it comes to rasa, rasa is like the mood in which one displays the majesty, the opulence of being the master, and the other displays the opulence of being the servant, right? That's why Srila Prabhupada often quoted that Sri Balaram represents, or he is the supreme personality of servitor Godhead, right? A personality who has so much greed, a personality who has so much desire that he wants to serve Krishna in every aspect of the creation, right? So Balaram is the presiding deity of the Chit potency. We know Lord Brahma, when he prays, he mentions that, Anadiradi Govinda Sarva Karana Karma, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Sat Chit Ananda, right? This is what Krishna is made of. So one of the energy, one of the Shakti, which is Chit Shakti, which is nothing but the knowledge potency, the predominating deity, right, or the personality who is responsible for that particular aspect of Lord is Sri Balaram, right? He's the one who guards this knowledge. He's the one who decides who gets this knowledge, and he's the one who make sure that this knowledge gets distributed far and wide for the deliverance of the living entities. Now, the one of the perspective, or one of the idea behind Lord Balaram's existence is that he provides a framework, right? He provides a framework as to how service has to be rendered to Krishna, right? Now, Krishna, being the master, he also wants to experience. He also wants to experience what is it to serve himself, right? And we understand that in the pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one of the reason he came was he wanted to understand what is it that my devotees feel, what is the joy that my devotee gets when he serves me. So to experience that, he appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? So Balaram, he is very, very careful in not only utilizing this knowledge for the service of Krishna, but at the same time, he also wants to make sure that this knowledge, this knowledge gets disseminated forever, for eternity, right? It's not that he's just holding on to this knowledge. That's not the understanding that we need to gain, right? The understanding is that Lord Balaram, he is the presiding deity of this knowledge potency of the Lord, but he wants to distribute it far and wide, right? So what is this knowledge, right? If you have to understand, one may ask this question: what is this knowledge, right? Now the scripture says, like I'll give an example, right? When we are offering bhoga to the Supreme Lord, now we have some standards, right? The standards in the material world is mostly regulated. Regulated basically means that we know for Rajbhog, when we offer to the deities for Rajbhog, there is certain amount of sabzi that's required. There is certain amount of sweets that is required, right? So we have the guidelines that our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada has given for each of the offering that happens, right? Now, while the pujari is cooking in the kitchen, right? He is cooking with the understanding that this offering is supposed to go to the Lord, and he is cooking with the understanding that this offering should be pleasing to the Lord, right? Now, while he's cooking, if he's cooking in a very mechanical way, right? Mechanical way literally means that he follows a recipe, right? A recipe says 500 ml of ghee, this much teaspoon of masala, and all those details, right? But that recipe in and of itself is not going to bring that pleasure when the Lord is tasting it, right? What is the most important ingredient that we understand? Krishna himself mentions that in Bhagavad Gita, right? Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhakta prayachati, right? Tad bhakta upaharatam ashnami prayatatmana. Krishna says that if you offer me water, leaf, and fruits, if you offer that with bhakti, right? If you offer that with bhakti, then Krishna says, Ashnami Prayatatmana, I accept it, Krishna says, right? So this understanding, this knowledge, this devotion, along with the knowledge, is infused by Sri Balaram, right? So when I'm cooking in the kitchen, right, what is actually the Lord, what is the Lord that is Lord accepting, what is that the Lord is accepting is the devotion that I carry in my heart, right? So this knowledge, right, this understanding, you cannot gain just by reading, right? Now everybody has memorized this verse, right? Krishna says, Ashnami Prayatatmana, Bhakta Upaharitam. If somebody offers it with devotion, I accept it. We have read it, we have heard it, we have memorized this verse, right? But when we are about to enter the kitchen and cook, right, does our heart, when we are offering, when we are cooking that preparation, does our heart, is aligned with this verse, right? That we are so absorbed in thinking that how wonderfully Krishna is going to enjoy this preparation. Let me do the best, right? Let me make sure my heart, my mind, my intelligence, my senses are properly directed towards cooking this preparation for the pleasure of the Lord, right? So this important ingredient is not going to come by just reading, right? This important ingredient actually comes to the process of sadhana bhakti, right? And that personality who infuses that energy or that pratyaksha, right? That realized knowledge, that personality who gives us that intelligence, that personality who gives us that realization about that knowledge, that person is Sri Balaram, right? Sri Balaram, he plays a very, very, very important role in the life of a sadhaka, right? Because with this understanding, with this knowledge, right, is what we can make progress in spiritual life, right? It is not just by reading, it is just not by even hearing, right? Unless and until the mercy of Lord Balaram descends, right, in the life of a jiva, only then that devotee becomes eligible, right? Because there is a process, there's a within our, you know, lineage, right? We understand there are three important aspects. There is sambandha, abhidaya, and prayojan, right? Sambandha is the knowledge or the understanding of a relationship with the Lord, right? Abhidaya is the process, how to execute this process of bhakti by which I can achieve prayojan, which is love of Krishna, right? So now Balaram, he's up in the spiritual world, right? His his um his mood to serve is so vast, and he wants to serve the Lord in so many different ways, right? In fact, the entire spiritual world is nothing but Balaram, Golok Vrindavan, forest of Vrindavan. It is nothing but an expansion of Sri Balaram, right? The clothes that Krishna wears, right? That is also Balaram's expansion. The mukut, the helmet that Krishna wears, right? Though even though Krishna's flute is an expansion of Sri Balaram, right? In fact, Krishna's Nitya Parshadas, you know, those who are the close associates of Vrindavan, Nanda Maharaj, they are all expansion. They all come from Sri Balaram, right? So you can see this personality has such an appetite to serve the Supreme Lord, right? That's why for us, those of us who don't have the appetite, right? Those of us who don't have the appetite, he's the person who can infuse that appetite in our hearts, right? Because without that appetite, honestly speaking, we cannot practice devotional service, right? We all come by some small amount of faith. We enter into the door, we enter into this realm of bhakti, right? Small faith, right? Initial shraddha that we have, initial appreciation that we may have for the some aspects of devotional service. It could be the deities, it could be the devotees, it could be prasadam, it could be the singing of the holy name. So many different, some appreciation we get, and then that becomes like our entrance into the in the process of bhakti, right? But as we move along, as we walk in this forest of bhakti, right? At every step, the personality who infuses us, the personality who inspires us, right? That personality, whether you know it or don't, yeah, whether you know it or you don't, that personality is Sri Balaram, right? So what a better day for us to acknowledge that, right? Than this day of his appearance. That, oh my God, I didn't knew that he's one of the person who's playing such a pivotal role in my life and guiding my direction, or helping me, right? So that the same Balaram, when he descends, when he comes down to the material world, that person is Sri Guru, right? So Sri Guru is the manifestation of the Chit Shakti of Sri Balaram, right? When a living entity, when a jiva who by his purity, by his sadhana bhakti, by his intense desire to serve Sri Krishna, his heart becomes a place, or his heart becomes a like a magnet to attract this chit potency of the Lord, this knowledge potency of Sri Balaram, right? So that personality is the spiritual master, right? Who comes in this world, who appears in this world primarily to give us guidance, right? So Balaram's energy, this Balaram's Shakti, this Balaram Chit Shakti, it manifests in the heart of our spiritual master, right? And for us, we see our spiritual master as a representative of the original spiritual master, that is Sri Balaram, right? So what is our spiritual master doing here? Our spiritual master, in essence, he's actually helping, he's guiding our direction. But the original person who's inspiring, who's guiding our spiritual master, Sri Balaram, right? So a guru, when he's speaking, when he's giving us this knowledge, when he's giving us this understanding, this is not this is not something that he has cooked, right? This is, again, it's all based on Shastra, because we understand, we mentioned, right, dharmam tu sakshat bhagat pranitam. All the religious principles, all these teachings are manifest in the scriptures, right? So a guru who has the understanding of this knowledge, he makes this knowledge accessible to us. He makes this knowledge more practical for us, right? And when we say practical, meaning he understands the dynamics of how the principle should be applied based on time, place, and circumstances. A very good example is this current situation that we are in, right? This pandemic that we are in, right? Our devotional service has not stopped, right? Our devotional service has not stopped. In fact, we are getting more time to perform devotional service, right? Our devotional service still continues on, right? Because we are not saying that, okay, I cannot go to temple, so sorry, I cannot worship the Lord, right? Sunday feast is no longer happening, so I might as well just sit home and do nothing, right? So time, place, and circumstances, the principles are adjusted, right? Usually hearing, now I'm sitting in front of a computer like a dead monitor, right? There's nobody. It's matter, it's dull matter, right? And I'm speaking in front of this dull matter. I don't see anybody, right? I don't see any living entity in front of me. Like, the joy that we have, the speaker has, or the person who's hearing, right? To hear from a live person, right? Because you can see, you can feel, you can, get that energy, that positive energy that is there, when all the devotees come together for one purpose. We may see that is lacking, but it is not stopping us, right? Those principles are adjusted based on time, place, and circumstances. That is the uniqueness of this process of devotional service, right? It can be practiced anywhere, right? It can be practiced anywhere. The principles remains the same. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, right? These principles remain the same. The principles are not changed, right? We are sitting here and we are doing, I'm doing Kirtanam, you are all doing Shravanam, right? And the benefit that you're going to get, it's going to be the same, right? Provided you are giving oral reception and provided you're attentively hearing, not getting distracted, right? Because here during the class, I can tell somebody if somebody's not attentive or somebody's trying to do something else. But in this setup, that one piece is missing because I can't really tell who's doing what, other than the assumption that I can go that everybody's listening and listening attentively and carefully, making notes. So Guru is the manifestation of the Chit Shakti of Sri Balaram. He primarily comes here in this world to help us guide our destination, that is to achieve Krishna Prem. Right? So when the Lord comes to this world, he performs various pastimes, right? And we will see some pastimes, and we will try to gather some lessons from that, right? So in the pastime, when Lord Balaram personally appeared in this world 5,000 years ago, along with Krishna, they performed various pastimes, right? And our acharyas, when they see the pastime has a lot of fun, right? That fun element is there because when we are having fun, there is a good amount of absorption, right? To give a mundane example, when you're watching a nice movie or some nice entertainment, live entertainment, some drama or something, right? To the degree that drama has some nice comedy, or the drama has some nice emotions that is being churned by the people who are acting, right? Our absorption is intense. You're not distracted, right? Versus somebody is performing a drama and they're totally spaced out, right? The sound is not proper, or the characters are missing on their dialogues, or the acting is not proper, right? Absorption can be there. You may wonder when is the next thing happening, because I don't know, I cannot have a good understanding of this, right? But versus some play or some movies, when we can see, it can be heart churning, right? Depending on how it is projected, right? So when Krishna comes along with his entourage, right, the pastimes are enacted for you and me to get ourselves absorbed in that pastime, right? Right? And that pastime is the one that purifies. Right? Sukadeva Goswami, like in the 10th canto, he mentions that this is like Bhava Aushadhi, right? This pastime, right? Nirvikta Tarshe Upagiyamana, Bhava Aushadhi Shotra Manobirama, right? So this pastime, when we hear, right, when we absorb our mind and attention in hearing the glories of the Lord, what happens? They act as medicine for a conditioned soul, right? And how that medicine will, to the degree we are absorbed in that pastime, to that degree we will get the benefit of the medicine, right? But when it comes to our acharyas, right, their commentaries or their purports are primarily for us, so that we can not only become absorbed, but we can also get some lessons, why the Lord did the way he did, right? So these insights are very useful for us. These insights gives us some glimpse into the details behind the pastime, right? That's why the commentaries are very important, right? Because when 10th canto, when we approach the 10th canto, we have gone to the first 9 cantos, right? The first 9 cantos, they specifically focus on the tattvas, where you and I can ask a lot of questions. Why like this? Why not like this? Right? But when it comes to 10th canto, we should not ask any question, because the 10th canto is only to be relished. Right? There is no question of why Krishna is doing like this, why he didn't do like this, why he kicked Shakatasur with his foot, why not with his hand. Right? This question is not to be asked, because we have to just relish. Oh, Krishna kicked with his feet. Right? If you want to ask questions, go back to the first 9 cantos. There you can ask all kinds of questions. But when you come to 10th canto, pure relishment. But still, our acharyas, they ask the question for you and me, right? So in the time that we have, we'll see how many pastimes we can cover and what we can learn from these pastimes, right? So one of the pastimes that is famous pastimes is the killing of Dhenukasura, right? The ass demon, donkey, right? So there are few important lessons we will try to cover and understand, mostly from the perspective of our practical application, right? So we will try to see if this pastimes can help us understand some of the details around, first of all, why did Balaram kill Dhenukasur, right? And why not Krishna, right? That obvious questions are there, so we'll try to address them. Now, most of us are familiar with this pastime, right? How one day Krishna and Balaram, along with their friends, they were, wandering in the forest, and in that whole wandering, one of Krishna's friends, he approached Krishna and Balaram, right? Because we have to understand this cowherd boys that Krishna used to associate with. All they did was they always incited Krishna to do something different every day. every day there was something different, right? I mean, when Krishna comes here, because killing of demons only happen here. In the spiritual world, there is no killing of demons because there are no demons, right? So that's why Krishna takes a lot of pleasure to come here in this world. And in fact, we understand that Krishna, Krishna's pastimes are Nitya Leela, right? So right now, as we are speaking this pastime, Krishna is performing this pastime. So if you want to plug yourself to that pastime, so you have to hear attentively. If you hear attentively, then you can plug yourself into that pastime, which is happening right now as we speak, right? Because it is Nitya Leela. So one of Krishna's friends approached Krishna and Balaram and said, we have heard nearby there is a forest. There is a forest of tal fruits, right? And this forest has been guarded by a demon, right? And his name is Dhenuka, right? So as soon as Krishna and Balaram, they hear or they heard about this donkey demon, they both started to laugh, right? And now here, one question we can ask, why did they laugh, right? So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explains the reason why Krishna and Balaram laughed, right? So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, they laughed because they were thinking, a donkey is guarding this tal fruits, and why we're supposed to take it so seriously, right? That's the reason they were laughing. But nevertheless, they said, yeah, let's go, let's see who can stop us. We'll go and we'll have a nice time. We'll enjoy this nice juicy tal fruits and satisfy our desires, completely satisfy our desires. Now, the first principle here is when Krishna and Balaram entered the forest, right? Now, please hear this attentively. When Krishna and Balaram, they entered the forest, they did not knock, right? Now, when do you knock somebody's door? Like say you're an uninvited guest, right? Some uninvited guest comes to my house. They cannot just open the door and walk straight into the kitchen and pick up something from my refrigerator, right? They have to knock at the door and then say, I'm here. Can I have some prasad? Then you invite them and you offer them prasad. That's the formality, right? So now Krishna and Balaram could have taken the same approach, right? They could have just knocked, Mr. Dhenuka, we want to come and honor this tal fruits. Please allow us to come, right? Now, one side, if Krishna and Balaram would have done it like that, then obviously, Dhenuka, the demon he would have just kicked them, both of them, out of that that forest, right? That is one way. That's why they did not do. Instead, what did Krishna and Balaram do? They went straight into the forest, right? Balaram and Krishna, they did not waste any time. They just went to one of the tal trees and started shaking, right? So one explanation, one very beautiful explanation is Krishna and Balaram. Now, who will do that, right? When somebody just walks straight into your house like that, somebody who is very familiar to you, number one, or somebody who's very, very friendly and casual with you, right? He would come and walk straight into your house, right? But here, in this case, the sun is bothering. So in this case, Krishna and Balaram are giving Dhenukasura an opportunity for this friendly nature, right? Krishna and Balaram, they basically, they want to be friends, right? I know Dhenuka, you are there somewhere, but I'm just coming here because, we are friends. So Krishna and Balaram offered Dhenukasura this opportunity to be friends with them. Guess what would have happened? Dhenukasura would have seen this, and then he said, okay, you want to have fruits, go and have fruits, right? He would have got the opportunity to render pure devotional service to Krishna and Balaram, right? So this is how Krishna and Balaram approach a living entity, right? This is how Krishna and Balaram approach a living entity, that they always want us to be, they're giving us an opportunity to be friends with them. That's why Krishna says, Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam, right? Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam Gyatva Mam Shantim Rachati. Krishna is giving us, Krishna doesn't say, Krishna is very interesting, this verse. Here Krishna is giving us, you and me, an opportunity to be his friends. Like Krishna and Balaram gave Dhenukasura an opportunity to shake hands, right? By walking straight into the forest without knocking the door, because knocking the door means it's formality. But here Krishna and Balaram, they walked right in just to extend that friendly hand. Because yeah, I'm your friend, I'm just come here, I'm passing by, I like this tal fruit, so please let me have some tal fruit. Right? But then we know the rest of the story, we are aware, right? What happened? As soon as Krishna Balaram started shaking the tal fruits, the fruits fell down, and then naturally it disturbed the sleep of Dhenuka, and then he came charging at Krishna and Balaram, right? And what did he do? He kicked Balaram, right? And then he just, and then again, the details most of us are familiar with, so I'm not going to spend too much time discussing the details, but the lessons we'll try to extract, right? Because that is what we want to practice in our day-to-day life, right? That is what we want to practice as devotees. So here, Dhenukasur, he had the opportunity to become friends with him, but again, he's an asur. Asur means, he doesn't have that mentality. What is the mentality of Dhenukasur? His mentality is this me and my mentality. This is one of the anartha, right? One of our acharyas, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he has taken all these demons and he is giving a representation of what this demon represents, right? So here in this case, Dhenukasur, he represents ignorance, right? He represents this ignorance, and one of the tendency, one of the mindset of one who is in ignorance is that he thinks everything belongs to me and everything that I have is mine. Everything that is around me is mine, right? So, and this usually happens for people who don't have this mentality, or they're unaware of the goal of life, right? What do I need to do to reach my goal, right? We understand that, this knowledge we were discussing earlier, this knowledge that Sri Balaram has, right? How to render service, in such a way where Krishna becomes pleased, right? So in the pastime of Dhenukasur, after Balaram killed, right? After Balaram killed Dhenukasur, right? There's a very, it's very interesting because Krishna, when he kills the demons, there is not much drama. If you study Krishna's pastimes, when Krishna is killing, it is instant. In the matter of minutes, the demon is dead. The chapter is closed, right? But here, in the case of Dhenukasura, there was some drama, and Balram did it in a very wonderful way because he took the hind legs of Dhenukasura and he whirled him around and threw him, right? And Krishna saw that, and Krishna also did the same thing when other demons came and started attacking Krishna and Balaram, right? So they had a great time. The idea of some of our acharyas explained that why Krishna didn't waste so much time, because every demon practically came just before Krishna and his friends were about to have the prasad. So Krishna didn't want to waste time because they are hungry. They are hungry, and we know, right? When we are hungry, right? If you are in a meeting and you are hungry, food is being served, prasad is being served, we can see the anxiety as we get closer to the end of the meeting. We want to just finish up that meeting or whatever chore that you're doing. So here Krishna doesn't want to waste because Krishna doesn't want to see his Gopa friends hungry, right? So Krishna does his business, immediately kill. But here they are in a place where the entire forest is like bhoga, right? Because everybody came for one purpose, to eat the tal fruits, and here these demons, they were disturbing. They are coming in between, them and the tal fruits, right? So anyway, Krishna Balaram taught them the lesson, and interestingly, when Balaram killed Dhenukasur, right? All these demons came and they started attacking. So what was one additional service that Balaram does? And we can see, because if we carefully observe this pastime, we can see how Balaram is very attentive to render service, right? Because it is said, attention to detail is a sign of love, right? We can love so many, we say, I love you, we can express our love in so many ways. But one very unique way the expression of love happens is when we pay close attention to details. Right? So one way, now Krishna had to go to each of the trees and shake the trees for the fruits to fall. Balarama has to go, or maybe Krishna's, the other cowherd friends, they had to come and shake the tree. So instead, what did Balaram do? He thought for a while. He said, the best way I can render service is I can take these demons, I can then whirl them and throw them on top of the tree. So as soon as the weight of those donkey demons fall on the tree, what will happen? The tal fruits will fall down. Right? So indirectly, these demons did a lot of service for Krishna, right, and Balaram by just this small act. Right? So likewise, this mentality, right, this mentality of me and mine is prominent for all of us. I mean, most of us who are practicing devotional service, who are sadhakas, we struggle with this, right? We struggle with this mindset about, whatever belongs to me, it's mine, and whatever is around me is mine, right? So Krishna chose, because Krishna chose Balaram to kill, because one of the purpose, or one of the service of a guru is to remove ignorance, right? We say agyana, om agyana timirandasya. Agyan, the guru removes the agyan, right? Guru removes the ignorance. So this here, in this case, the demon Dhenuka represents ignorance, right? So that's why Krishna gave that charge of killing this demon to Balaram, right? Because Balaram is being the original guru. One of his tasks, one of his service is to destroy ignorance, right? And how wonderfully, while destroying ignorance in the form of Dhenukasura, there are service being rendered, right? So I may be in ignorance, right? I am in ignorance, right? But when I am practicing devotional service, but when I'm going through the process of sadhana bhakti, right, I have the opportunity to render pure devotional service, right? Because in Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he very beautifully explains, right? He explains two things that is very, very important for all of us to keep in mind, right? What are those two things? In his definition of Uttama Bhakti, he mentions, the first part, Anyabhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karma Dhyanavratam Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam, right? So these two principles, right? Now again, how do we get this intelligence, and how do we get this knowledge to do these two things, right? This anukul basically means favorably discharging devotional service, right? Not grudgingly doing devotional service, right? At any given point of time, Srila Rupa Goswami explains, any given point of time, we should never give up this principle of anukulyata, right? Favorably discharging, no matter what happens in my life. And there may be times in our life where we may even question Krishna, why are you doing this to me, right? So as long as we don't give up favorably discharging, that's number one. And second, anukulyena Krishna anushilanam. That shila means to act, right? Anushilanam, anu means continuously acting for whom? For Krishna and Krishna's devotees, right? So if we are able to do these two things, right, favorably discharging continuous devotional service, continuous service to Krishna and Krishna's representatives, right, then we are practicing Uttama Bhakti. This is according to Srila Rupa Goswami. So this ignorance, right, this ignorance can be destroyed. This ignorance can be destroyed when we understand this principle of that I'm supposed to perform devotional service favorably, right? Along with favorably, continuously perform devotional service, right? Savai pumsa paro dharmo yatho bhaktir adokshaje ahetuki apratihata yayatma suprasati. Unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service, right? So right now in this pandemic, our devotional service should not take a break, right? You can always argue that Krishna, you're putting me in a situation where I cannot execute the devotional service that I should do before, right? So that is our devotional service interrupted, right? But according to the definition of Uttama Bhakti, Anu Shilanam, it doesn't just say Shilanam, just act, continuous service to Krishna. Right? So our chanting, our hearing, our deity worship, right? Our service to the Vaishnavas, our service to our spiritual masters, right? All continues, irrespective whether pandemic, there's no pandemic, right? So this intelligence, right? This intelligence is provided to us by Sri Balaram, right? He removes that fog of understanding, right? He removes that fog of understanding that we are supposed to continuously, with a favorable mentality, perform the devotional service for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, right? So that is the mentality we need to have. That is what Balaram destroys, right? So Dhenukasura represents ignorance, and in this particular Leela, one of the prominent things that Balaramji displayed was how that he came with the attitude of friendship, right? But Dhenuka did not accept it. Why? Because he represents ignorance, right? So what does Balaram do? Balaram just destroys the ignorance, right? So for us in our lives, in our devotional life, this principle should be properly understood in a way that we can continue to render favorable devotional service, irrespective of what situation come in our life, right? And that guidance, the personality who gives us that guidance is our spiritual master, right? Or spiritual masters, right? Because you could have so many different, we have one Diksha Guru and we could have so many Shiksha Gurus, right? Who in their own way are helping us bring closer and closer to Krishna, right? As long as they are in a proper sampradaya, as long as they are, practicing devotional service, by their own example, we become inspired and continue on, right? So the next pastime is this. I'm supposed to end at 6:30, Prabhuji, Panduranga Gopal.
Yes, Prabhu, 6:30.
Okay.
We can go a little
All right.
over. Should not be a problem.
Okay. Yeah, I think I don't know if I'll be able to finish all the pastimes, but let's see how far we can cover, and then I'll leave some time for questions also. So the next pastime is Shri Balaram killing this demon, another demon called Dvivida Gorilla, right? Now, this is a very beautiful pastime. The details of this pastimes are pretty straightforward, in the sense that there one time Balaram, along with his consorts, they were enjoying up on the mountain, and then there this demon comes and he tries to disturb Shri Balaram's enjoyment, and then Balaram treats him, kills him, right? And there are a lot of details around it. I'm just skipping the details because, again, as I said, we want to focus on the lessons, right? So it is explained that Sridhar Swami, one of the original commentators of Srimad Bhagavatam, he explains that this demon, in his previous life, he was one of the associates of Lord Ramachandra, right? He was one of the associates of Lord Ramachandra, and in that particular Leela, when Lord Ramachandra appeared, he disrespected his younger brother Lakshman, who is none other than Shri Balaram, right? In that particular pastime, he appeared as Lord Ramachandra's younger brother Lakshmana, right? So in that pastime, in that particular Leela, this one associate of Lord Ramachandra, he disobeyed or he disrespected Lakshman, right? The reaction of that, he took birth here in Dwapar Yuga, right? And he fell, right? He fell in bad association, right? So this is a very, very important lesson for all of us, right? When we disrespect somebody, especially a Vaishnava, right? Or when we, act inappropriately, right? If we misbehave in front of a Vaishnava, right? What happens? One way the reaction comes to us, one way the reaction comes to us is that we fall in bad association, right? What is bad association, right? Good association produces good qualities in us. Bad association gives rise to bad qualities in us, right? Because a jiva, a living entity in this material world, right, depending on his association, right, depending on the association that he has, he can either elevate himself or he can either demote himself, right? So one of the reaction that this associate of Lord Ramchandra got, right? He took birth as Dvivida Gorilla, and then he fell in the bad association, and then his demoniac tendencies came out, right? His demoniac tendencies came out, right? Unless and until your heart becomes completely cleansed of all the dirt, we will always have this so-called tendencies to lord it over. Who's a demon, right? When you say demoniac qualities, a demon wants to lord it over, right? Ishwaraham, aham bhogi, siddhoham balavan sukhi. In the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, right, Krishna explains, right? I think I am the Ishwar, right? Right? Aham bhogi, I am the enjoyer. Siddhoham balavan sukhi, like I'm the most powerful person, right? I want to lord over, right? So the demoniac tendencies are such that we want to enjoy, and this quality, these bad qualities can come when we associate with those people who have the same tendencies. And that's why we have to be very careful what association we choose, right? Because he often, one of the most important, not most important, but one of the questions that usually get asked, that because we understand, we keep hearing that sincerity is a principle that we all would like to have, right? I want to be sincere. So how do I become sincere, right? The simple answer, without getting into too much technicalities, is that associate with those devotees, associate with those people who are sincerely following devotional service, right? Because this association rubs onto us, right? Who we associate with, that same qualities rubs onto us, right? So that's why we are supposed to associate with advanced Vaishnavas, right? So that some of the qualities can fall on us. So here with the gorilla, right? He fell in the bad association, and because of bad association, because he knew who Balaram was, right? But because of ignorance and because of his tendency to lord over, he could not see. Balaram was not disturbing him. He could not see that here is a person, here is a personality who's enjoying, right? Why he should enjoy, right? Why he should enjoy? I want to enjoy, right? So that tendency, is also destroyed by Sri Balaram, right? See, because Balaram did not kill, Balaram only killed about few demons, right? But he chose who he wanted to kill. Right? The first piece of Dhenukasura, ignorance is destroyed, right? And second, here in this case, what does Dvivida Gorilla represents? Right? He represents pride, right? Pride. What is this pride? Pride means I want to enjoy, right? I want to enjoy. I want to enjoy this. Whatever is in front of me, whatever is not in front of me, I want to enjoy everything, right? So that mentality is also destroyed by Sri Balaram, because you can see how, as I was mentioning in the beginning of my talk, that how Balaram plays such an important role in our life, right? Ignorance, right? Avidya is a root cause of suffering, right? That is destroyed by Sri Balaram. Pride, right? Pride cometh before fall, they say. Right? So this pride, and we have to watch, we have to guard ourselves against from pride, right? And that is destroyed by Sri Balaram, right? And how do we destroy, right? How do we destroy pride, right? That destruction of pride happens through good association, right? Through good association. Bhagavatam says, right, in the first canto, Bhagavatam, Sutta Goswami, Vyasadeva explains, right? Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya, right? We have to nityam bhagavata sevaya. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport explains two kinds of bhagavat. One is the book bhagavat and one is the person bhagavat. So nityam bhagavata sevaya means reading Srimad Bhagavatam every day. Along with that, also rendering service to persons like Bhagavat, right? Our spiritual masters, right? The Vaishnavas that we associate with, right? Because a Vaishnav does not see, he does not see who is higher, who is lower, right? At least in the initial stage, right? We want to serve devotees, we want to serve back to every devotee. But as we grow along, we don't see don't make so much differentiation, right? Because our disposition is to serve, right? We serve our juniors in a particular way, we serve our peers in a certain way, we serve our superior in a particular way, right? The details changes, but the principle remains the same, right? So when we associate with like-minded, when we associate with pure-hearted souls, what happens? This pride, because what is pride, right? Pride is opposite of humility, right? Humility means that I am not the Lord, I am a servant. Pride is I am the Lord, I am not the servant, right? So when we humbly render service to the great souls, right, that is one way we can um, um, destroy, we can um, destroy pride. And again, here also you can see Balaram, he plays that important role, right? He plays this role of destruction of pride, right? And again, each of these pastimes, if we study them carefully, the pastime in of itself is to relish, right? When we are hearing the pastime, right, we need to, as I mentioned, these pastimes are happening right now, right? If your attention is there, because one way, how do we understand that this pastime is purifying, right? This pastime is purifying, right? Because what happens when we hear these pastimes, right? Because we have heard this pastime, every festival we are hearing the pastime, right? Lord Ramachandra's appearance, we hear Lord Ramachandra's pastime. Narsingadev's appearance, we hear Lord Narsinga's pastime. Tomorrow is Lord Balaram Jayanti, so we are hearing Lord Balaram's pastime. Next Tuesday is Janmashtami, so we'll hear about Krishna's pastime. So what is that? What is that happens when we hear this pastimes, right? What is that aushadhi, right? Bhava aushadhi, this bhava rog that we are in, where we think that I am the Lord, right? Where we want to enjoy, where we have so much of pride, right? This aushadhi, this medicine of this pastime, what happens, right? Because when we connect, right, we chant these prayers, Om Apavitra Pavitrova Sarva Vastam Gatopiva, yes Maret, Pundari Kaksham, when we remember the lotus eyed, when we remember the lotus eyed Krishna, what happens? Sabhaya Abhyantara Suchi, right? We become purified both within and without, just by remembering the Supreme Lord, right? So when we are hearing the pastime, if we become absorbed in that pastime, what happens? That pastime comes to us as remembrance. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? Krishna says that from me comes remembrance and from me comes forgetfulness. Sarvasya chaham hridhi shanya vishto matta smritir, right? Matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Apohanam cha means forgetfulness. From me comes from forgetfulness, and from me comes remembrance. So when we hear Krishna's pastime, this pastimes, when it is stuck to us, then these pastimes can be remembered. It can continue to remember throughout our day, throughout our lives. Because, my dear friends, at the time of death, right? At the time of death, Krishna says, please hear this carefully. At the time Krishna says, what does Krishna says? Anta kalecha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram. It's very interesting. Krishna uses this word, and this has been like my favorite ever since I came across, or I got stuck by this. You can call it enlightenment. Krishna uses the word smaran muktva kalevaram. Krishna doesn't say shravan muktva kalevaram. Krishna doesn't say kirtan muktva kalevaram. Krishna doesn't say pada sevanam muktva kalevaram. Right? Why does Krishna uses the word smaran? Means remembrance. At the time of death, right? Krishna says at the time of death, if you remember me, right? Because who knows what's probably happening with your ear? There may be 1,000 devotees chanting the holy name, but if at the time of death, if your whole bodily function is messed up, your sense of hearing could be gone, and you could not be hearing anything, right? Your throat is completely choked up, with mucus and whatnot. It is explained, right? What happens when we are nearing the death? So you're not able to chant, right? What happens to your eyesight? You cannot even see the deity form of the Lord. You cannot even see the photograph, right? But what is active, most active, is our capacity to smaran, our capacity to remember, right? So if in our life, if we have paid attention, or if you have attentively heard the pastime, whether somebody is chanting next to you, whether somebody is portraying a picture of the divine couple in front of you, it doesn't matter, right? You can just close your eyes, and if you have remembered the Lord nicely, that remembrance, Krishna says, right? Matta smritir. And Krishna says, Dadami buddhi yogam tam. Tesham shatata yuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvakam. That devotee, Bhajatam Priti Purvakam, with love and devotion, if he has executed his life, right? Krishna says, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. I give him the intelligence, I give him the remembrance by which Yena Mam Upayantite, he'll come to me, right? So this is a very, very important principle. When we hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, when we hear these pastimes, if we are absorbed, because this absorption is going to benedict us at the time of death, whether somebody is next to us, because it's a gamble in one way. We can all hope that when we are about to leave this body, there will be 10 devotees chanting next to us. Or there could be devotees, showing the pictures of the Lord or making us remind Krishna, right? But my dear friends, what is the most important faculty that is active at the time is our remembrance. And if you have lived your life, absorbed in the pastimes of Krishna, not 24 hours a day, but at least when there's opportunity like this Balaram Jayanti, Krishna Janmashtami, right? If you're just attentively hearing the pastime, this pastime will manifest at the time of death. And that becomes our ticket to the spiritual world, right? Smaranam muktva kalevaram, right? Kalevaram, this body, when we give up this body, remembering Krishna, right? We never take birth again, right? So if you hear this, if you have heard this pastime properly with attention, right? So if you are able to even remember this lecture at the time of death, right? That this particular principle of smaran is the most powerful principle, right? And we can practice this every day, right? Take 5 minutes, take 2 minutes, sit quietly, close your eyes, and remember this pastime of Krishna, Balaram killing Dhenukasura. Absorb, just practice it. Naturally, what you practice, that becomes part of you. And this is a transcendental pastime, right? So it will not only purify us, but it will latch on to our consciousness. So when death comes, it becomes very easy. Right? It becomes for devotee, death is a very sweet experience. Although we understand that the death, it's like 40,000 scorpions biting at one time. We understand that from Garuda Puran. But for us, if you are absorbed, if you are remembered Krishna attentively every day, then when death comes, that remembrance will take us out of this material world and situate us in our original position as a servant of Krishna in the spiritual world. I wanted to cover one more pastime, but we don't have time. So I will stop here and then I'll see if there is any questions, any comments anybody would like to share for my purification. I can do that.
Thank you so much, Balaram Prabhu. This is Premananda Dasi. As always, it is such a, how to say, it is such a fulfilling experience just hear you speak. And very grateful to you for the way you presented it, preparing us to be ready for tomorrow's Balaram Jayanti. Plus, and of course, as following that is Krishna Janmashtami coming up. And this principle that you just talked about, complete absorption in the pastimes of the Lord, and based on that, the practice of the remembrance, it is something very, very so special. Mind is such a difficult thing to control, and unless there is some amount of concentrated effort put in that direction, I don't think it will be possible for anyone, because usually many times you hear questions being asked about how to control the mind and so many other things, and what you need to do positively is what you are pointing out, and it's a very practical suggestion, and I deeply appreciate hearing from you. The principle has been discussed in so many classes like this, but it was very, very appealing to me to hear it from you. It meant a lot, and thank you so very much for your presentation. As always, it is wonderful to hear from you. Thank you for coming for the Naperville congregation. You agreed to come here and speak, and I deeply appreciate that. And please always come back and give your classes. That is very enlightening. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mataji. I mean, you know all this principles, but I'm just trying to, like I'm trying to show this candle to a sun. That's what I feel when I'm talking in front of you. But thank you for your encouragement and, all these years, the affection and love you showered on me. I'm very grateful to you.
Not at all like that. I feel like when I hear from you, it resonates very deeply in my heart, and it is same principle as we hear all the time. But again, the principle resonates deeper, from where it is coming from, especially when devotees who are practicing devotees who speak from their experience, and then the way it touches the heart of one who wants to receive it, it is different. It is speaking on the one side and receiving on the other. And thank you so much, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I do not see any questions, Prabhu, on YouTube. Devotees, if you have any questions on Zoom call, please feel free. Unmute yourself and you can ask a question to Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, this is Anandini Priya. Thank you
Yes,
very much.
Mataji.
Thank you very much, Prabhu, for the amazing lecture and preparing us for tomorrow. And how to hear and how to absorb ourselves in the pastimes, and by absorbing our pastimes, how can it help us, to remember Krishna at the time of death. And there was one point I just wanted to clarify. I really liked it when you said that we all have bad qualities and as well as good qualities, right? So when we associate with people who have bad qualities, then the bad qualities become more prominent and we act on those. But when we associate with the devotees who have good qualities, then our bad qualities go away and the good qualities come up, right, Prabhu?
Yes. Yeah, that is correct, Mataji. And one thing we need to also keep in mind is this is something that is often overlooked by devotees is spiritual life is a process or a path where there is no room for artificiality, right? Artificiality basically means that you know you you are something and you're projecting something else, right? So especially we all have to acknowledge that because of our association and because of the time that we have spent in this material world, we have all developed a particular kind of nature, right? Which Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita very clearly that we all have our nature, right? We all have our swabhav, right? Krishna uses the word swabhav. And this nature is based on our past association. We have developed a particular um, you know a particular quality, particular nature in which we react, right? And this is something, it cannot be erased. Just few years of devotional service, just few years of chanting or hearing, associating, right? And so Krishna, actually our acharyas, they acknowledge this, right? In fact, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Nigraha kim karishyasi, right? The third chapter, 36th verse, 34th verse, Krishna explains this, that what can repression accomplish, right? We hear all these wonderful instructions, right? But when it comes to practically applying it, you and I know the struggle, right? So that's why
Yes,
we cannot artificialize that, right? At the same time, we cannot just act on our swabhav all the time, thinking that what can I do? This is how I am, right? So that's why we have Vaishnava. That's why we have our spiritual master. That's why we have our guides who helps us, who acknowledge, right? When somebody does a mistake, habituated. If you are habituated to do something, I will not take that very seriously, right? Because I understand that this person is under the grip of this particular habit, and this habit is nothing but our swabha, right? But as long as I repent, right? I repent or I acknowledge that, because of my nature, I acted or behaved in such way, you should feel repentance. You feel, you feel that I shouldn't have done it, but what can I do? And we can see this day in, day out, right? How our nature, how our swabhav are always pushing us in a direction which we are not supposed to go, right? So that's why, the practice of devotional service is the only practical way which can erase those habits, those unwanted habits that we have acquired from past life, right? And as we move along in devotional service, we can also see sometimes, not every devotee that we associate is a pure devotee, right? So, but at the same time, we don't ignore them, but at the same time, we are very careful who we associate with, right? And every devotee has their what you call quota of anarthas or quota of bad qualities that they deal with, right? So the help has to come from above, right? I cannot help somebody if I am drowning. I cannot help somebody who's also drowning, right? So you and I have to acknowledge this principle and carry out our devotional service under superior guidance, acknowledging this fact that my nature, my nature to resolve or to fix my nature will take a long time. But I understand that, I am conscious of it, and that's why this absorption in this pastimes, absorption in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is extremely important, because what happens, this absorption is putting on a new samskar in our consciousness. This absorption is creating a new set of nature. It's creating a new swabhav within my system, right? So the old swabhav, the old nature is there. They just get ignored, right? They just get ignored. So our bad qualities that we have, we may think that, all of a sudden all my bad qualities are gone. They're not gone. They've just been ignored for some time, right? And it's just a matter of time. You come in contact with somebody who starts talking about those bad qualities, suddenly you also become active, as if you feel like, oh, wow, what happened to this? And I was like this, and all of a sudden you feel it very relishable, right? So we have to watch for those, right? Because see, again, you have to understand, Srila Prabhupada translates Nectar of Devotion as the complete science of Bhakti Yoga, right? So Bhakti Yoga is a science. Science basically means what? You do X, you do Y, you're going to get the results, right? And if you're not getting the results, that means there is something wrong in the way you're approaching your spiritual life. And that's why we are always in the guidance, we are always in the anugatya, they say, of our superiors, right? Who we reveal our heart, who we reveal our problems, and then they accordingly, based on any individual, they will guide you, and ultimately we will achieve perfection, right? Because the perfection is not a one lifetime thing, right? It could take, it could take one life, or it could take, who knows, 10 million lifetimes. But that is not, that should not be our worry, right? If I'm going back to God after this lifetime, our worry should be that, am I serving Krishna the way my guru, the devotees want me to serve? That should be our anxiety. There should not be no other anxiety. Will I go back to God? Because that is not in our hand. That is for Krishna to decide, right? So in this life, what can I do to please Guru and Krishna? That should be our meditation. And if you are focused in this meditation, then Shri Balaram will come, right? Through his instructions, through his representatives, he will inspire us to render that particular service that you're hankering for.
Yes, thank you so much, Prabhu.
Okay, we should stop here now. Pandurang Gopal Prabhu.
There is a question on YouTube by Sunita Datta Mataji. How do we identify what is our nature, swabhav, from past life?
I knew somebody would ask this question, because in the olden days, the purpose of going to Gurukul, where a child, when he gets enrolled into Gurukul for first 12 years, right? when he comes out of Gurukul, he is not enlightened. He is not enlightened into the science of whatever his Guru has taught him. The enlightenment, what he understands, spending 12 years in Gurukul, he understands his nature. This is what I am carved for, right? And to expect, I'll give you an answer in a call like this. First of all, I need to know who you are. And again, even if I know, because interestingly, we have to understand that it's not something that, you and I will understand immediately, right? Because it's a process, because we are associating with so many different kinds of people, right? And sometimes we look at a person and we say, oh, I like him. Why I like him? Because he has the similar qualities as me. Or I don't like this person because I don't like this quality, because I don't have that quality, right? So we are always challenged, right? So that's why the whole system, the Vedic system, was such that, a student enrolls himself in the Gurukul, and the Guru, interesting, the Guru is dealing with so many natures, right? And the Guru is able to engage that individual in a certain way according to his nature. Because the Guru on the day one is not telling the disciple that, hey, this is your nature, go do this. No. The Guru, for Guru also, it's an exercise for 12 years, right? Working with the disciple. And then finally, the disciple is the one who discovers. The Guru is not telling him that this is your nature. The disciple discovers based on his sadhana, based on the teachings that the Guru is giving. And then when he leaves that particular ashram, leaves that Gurukul, he understands that this is my nature, right? So for you and me, right, we have to be very careful, right? We have to be very careful in engaging in services according to our nature, because that's where you will be most effective, right? Please understand this. You'll be most effective if you're engaged in the nature that you possess, right? If I engage you in some other service that is not according to nature, first of all, you'll be miserable. Second, you will be constantly cursing the devotee who engage in that service, right? But sometimes there is apad dharma. Apad dharma means emergency service. So when there is emergency service, you don't see whose nature is what. No. Emergency service means whether I am a Kshatriya, Brahmana, Vaishya, doesn't matter, right? The need of the hour is that somebody has to do this service. So at that time, you don't think too much about your nature. You execute it because that is the need of the hour. But other times, right, we have to find the true balance with our nature and engage in that service properly, right? So it could take a long time, right, to discover our own nature. So we try different things, we study the scriptures, we chant the holy name, we pray to the Lord, right? And slowly and gradually we will understand, right? This is what I am made of, and this is what I'm supposed to do in my spiritual life. And you execute your devotional service as per the instructions that you receive from your spiritual master. I hope that helps.
Yes, Mataji says, thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I know we are late. I just want to ask one question, Prabhu. In the starting of lecture, you mentioned that Balaram and Krishna entered forest without knocking the door, because Dhenuka is not having that mentality of allowing Krishna to enter. And you also mentioned as a conditioned entities, we also have that mentality that not allowing holy name or Krishna knowingly or unknowingly. So do you have any tips to, I know we should not ask tips, but in devotion, is there anything we can practice to allow Krishna and Balaram or devotees to our life, our houses? You want to share anything, Prabhu?
Yeah, I'm not a tips person, honestly, but I will share with you what Krishna speaks in Bhagavad Gita, right? Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, one of the dilemma that Arjuna was in, right? Krishna actually revealed Arjuna what he's supposed to do, right? And our struggle in our spiritual life is usually we hear instructions, we get enough insights into what we are supposed to do, right? But it's our nature that usually blocks that, right? Like, one of the not the tip, but we have to understand why we are here. Right? We have to understand why we are here. What are we doing with our spiritual life? First of all, what am I doing in our spiritual life? Why am I enrolled into this university? Why am I spending so much time and energy, right? Chanting every day for an hour and a half, 2 hours, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, doing deity worship, serving the Vaishnavas, right? So we're doing so many things, right? The obvious question to ask is, why am I putting so much time and energy in that? Right? Because we want something, right? We want something. And what is that something? We want to become a pure person. We want to become a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord, because only when we have achieved that purity is when we can offer seva nicely to Krishna, right? Not otherwise, right? So when Dhenuka had the opportunity, right? When Dhenuka had the opportunity to handshake, he did not, because his nature was not like, his nature was totally averse to having friendship with anybody, because he understood that this Krishna Balaram and his friends, they are going to come and take on my property, right? So if you are also have that same mentality, so then no matter how many devotees knock at your door, how many devotees come and give you good instruction, right? So we have to work on our nature, right? First we have to understand what is our nature, right? What is I made of? Because we all have our anarthas. We have pride, we have jealousy, we have envy, we have anger, we have lust, we have hatred. All these are residing within us, right? So the process of devotional service, right? Process of devotional service, one of the 6 characteristics of practicing pure devotion is the first one, right? What is the first one? It klesha agni, all the kleshas, all the dirty things, within our heart gets destroyed by the practice of devotional service, right? So if there is something good, right, we know this is a good thing for us to do. So we just latch on to it and continue on, right? We continue on as far as we can until, we become enlightened. When we become enlightened, we can do things more perfectly, more properly. But right now we are not. When there are good advices, that's why Krishna says that. It's such a beautiful verse in the 3rd chapter. Krishna says that the instructions are received. Good instructions are received. Good counsel is received, right? But then nigraha kim karishyasi, right? But still, a person who's habituated to not accepting that instruction, who's habituated to doing something really wrong, just by hearing this instruction is not going to change, right? What will change is our practice, our sadhana. How nicely, how intensely we chant the holy name, how attentively we chant the holy name, how attentively we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, how attentively we offer respect to devotees, right? All these things matter. It's not just one thing, just chant Hare Krishna. No, there are so many other details that we have to be careful, that we have to be mindful of, right? Because that is it collectively, it brings about a revolution within our heart, right? And only then, right? Only then we can, when the instruction come, we are able to accept, right? I mean, we've been hearing this for such a long time, right? Decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades, but still we know the struggles that we all have within. It's not just going to happen overnight, right? But we know the process works, right? Because look at us right now, right? Look at how far we have come. We have come a long way. We have come a long way. At least we all acknowledge that what I was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and if I had to reflect back, my God, I have changed a lot, right? That is a gift of bhakti yoga. That is a gift of devotional service. So we just continue on. Right? Krishna says, Pratyaksha vagamam dharmam susukam kartum avyam. That Pratyaksha, we will realize this. We will realize this Pratyaksha. And the Pratyaksha is in front of us, right? Just few years of devotional service has done so much changes in us, right? So if I continue for some more years and many lifetimes, I'll achieve perfection. That hope and faith we should have. And only then we'll achieve perfection. One of the most important ingredient when we practice devotional service is this faith, that this is working, this is going to work, right? If you're chanting without faith, you can chant for millions of lifetimes, right? Krishna says in the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, last verse, Krishna says, any individual entity who does not practice with faith, he will not achieve the result in this life and many lifetimes, right? So when we are chanting, when we are hearing, when we are serving, we need to have faith that this works, right? And then that will push us forward into devotional service more and more.
Thank you, Prabhu.
And Pranam Prabhuji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I am scared to ask a question because my real nature will be shown to everyone, you know. so, so the question, I think you brought up a very nice point of the smaranam at the time of death. So I was contemplating, and then I realized, even while chanting, I'm not thinking about Krishna or the holy name. My mind is everywhere, even in chanting. So I'm just thinking about what, even though I'm practicing many years, you know, where is my mind? It's very difficult. I feel that I'm not there yet. So thank you for reminding, Prabhu. So I don't want to ask any tips, but basically, you know, I think the practice, what is the best way we can at least remember, even, you know, as we already know, told you so many times, we heard that Prabhupada even said that it's not that you have to think about anything, but you have to just hear about what you chant. But even that also won't happen sometimes. It will be a lip chanting, and we are talking and chanting and finishing 16 rounds sometimes. I don't know how to get there. Maybe, you know, by the association, or, you know, by the more a reminder of hearing, and, you know, please give some you know, thought on that, Prabhu.
See, devotees, and this is one another problem with many of us, right? Is that we hope that magically something will happen someday, right? And especially in this case where, you know, we not only magically, but we expect that as devotees, you know, Krishna should give us the taste. It's interesting because if you study Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasam Sindhu, he explains the process of devotional service. He says, Adav Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha Ta Bhajana Kriya Anartha Nivritti Nishtha, right? Nishtha Ruchi Asakti, right? What comes before Ruchi? We all want taste, right? We all want taste. Oh, I don't have taste to study Bhagavatam. I don't have taste to chant holy name. But interestingly, he says, what comes before Ruchi? Nishtha. Nishtha basically means steadiness. So we have to show Krishna that I am at least duty bound, I am chanting the holy name. 16 rounds. Reading Srimad Bhagavatam 1 hour, duty bound, you know, that's fine. I don't have taste. And let's not complain about taste, because taste you and I don't own, right? Taste has to come from above. But what we own or what we have is I can at least steadily do that. Steadily doing 2 hours of chanting every day. Don't get too much caught up in, you know, my mind is here, mind is there. You know, mind is doing his job. You do your job. What is your job? Nishtha. Right? Focus steadily every day. As a duty, I am doing it. Right? Because see, Krishna will acknowledge that. No matter what happens, this fellow is sitting there. Half of the time he's sleeping. Half of the time his mind is thinking about something else. All that is going on. Krishna is also having a nice laugh. Actually, you're doing so much service. Krishna is having a laughter looking at you. Again, don't quote me here. But the principle is that, you know, we have to do what we are supposed to do, right? Because mind, Arjuna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? Chanchalahi mana Krishna, pramati balabhradatam. Krishna says, Arjuna, and Krishna acknowledges that. Krishna says, yes, my dear Arjuna, this mind is the most difficult to control. So when you are saying that mind is going here and there, you're trying to catch the mind. Please don't do that. It's futile, right? But what we can do is we can try to bring the mind back to the holy name. Our success in our current situation that we are all in, our success is bringing the mind back. The mind will go, you bring the mind back. If you are able to do that much, your chanting is a success. And then you will get to the platform of Nishtha, because when Krishna sees that this person, this individual has consistently doing this for so many years, Krishna will give some taste. You know, maybe in 16 rounds, one mantra, you are feeling some happiness, you know, because I was just speaking last week in one engagement and I was just sharing this principle. The principle is when we are chanting, we have to understand that this chanting is bringing Krishna pleasure. This chanting of Hare Krishna is bringing Krishna pleasure. We have to have this faith, and with that faith, you to sit and chant 16 rounds. So whether your mind is going here and there, you can't help it, because who knows what all things are going on. We all know so many things are going on in devotee's life. Krishna knows that. See, Krishna is a person. Krishna is not an autocrat. Immediately he's going to start chastising you. You chanted 16 rounds inattentively, I'm going to put some anartha in your life. I'm going to put some obstacle in life. That is not Krishna. Krishna is a person, he's a father. He understands that, oh, this devotee is going through so many difficulties in his life. That's why he's not able to chant. Krishna acknowledges that. Krishna understands that. Right? But when I am sitting and chanting, my purpose of sitting and chanting is that this chanting is bringing Krishna joy. Now you may wonder, my mind is here, my mind is there, my mantras are not proper, I'm falling asleep. Doesn't matter. Just acknowledge and have faith that this chanting is bringing Krishna joy. Right? If you start thinking like that, automatically, it is almost magical. I'm giving you a tip here, by the way. It is almost magical. You will start thinking, oh, I'm supposed to, this is giving Krishna pleasure, this is giving Krishna joy. Right? So let me do it nicely. Right? Let me do it nicely. And when you continue to do it in that way, in that fashion, then you will see. Then the ruchi will come. But don't expect ruchi without doing hard work, without getting into the stage of nishtha. And this is chanting. We are taken a vow, but for study of Bhagavatam, study of scriptures, we are not taken any vow. Right? Why? And most of the devotees say, I don't have taste. I read, I fall asleep. Doesn't matter. Fall asleep, you'll get a good sleep hearing or reading Srimad Bhagavatam. But the important principle is that I am studying. I'm studying for Krishna. One sankalpa. Maybe since we're on this tip, right? One sankalpa you can do before we start any spiritual activity. Right? Close your eyes, offer a prayer. That, my dear Lord, this activity of chanting, this activity of doing deity worship, this activity of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, my dear Lord, let this activity of mine bring some pleasure to your heart. That's it. That's it. You brought Krishna there, and you are dedicating your activity even before. It's interesting because Krishna says, Yat karoshi yadashnashi yad joshi dadashi yat tapasyasi konte tat kurushu madarpanam. That is after the fact. Right? After the work is over, I offer. But here, before the act, I'm offering it to Krishna. So Krishna is acknowledging. That is bhakti. Krishna is acknowledging, you are acknowledging. And then during the process, if you are insincere, then naturally you may do some crazy. But if you're a sincere soul, trying to be sincere at least, you will do this properly, because now you just said that I'm doing this activity for your pleasure, Krishna. Right? We pay attention to the detail. That is sign of love. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I remember that, Prabhu. Thank you so much. It's like, we always say Hari, Samsiddhi Hari Toshanam, but the meaning I understood, even for the chanting, the pleasure of Krishna, not for me. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Make a lot of sense for me.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. So, yeah, you finally gave a tip. That's sweet of you. Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, any other? I know it's more than 30 minutes over. Anybody have any pressing questions? Okay, I don't see any questions from YouTube also. Prabhu, thank you so much for your valuable time and giving your association. We're indebted to you. It's a wonderful enlivening class. So thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Ki Jai. I'm going to end the call.